Good evening, dear learners. This is your educator Rashi Poddar for UGC NET Paper 2 English. And in our today's class, we are going to see John Donne as a metaphysical poet. John Donne is one of the important writers that is asked in your exam repeatedly. बहुत बार इससे क्वेश्चंस बनता है आपके एग्जाम में क्योंकि ये एक मेटाफिजिकल पोएट है एंड ही इज समवन जिनके लिए मेटाफिजिकल टर्म यूज किया गया था. So John Donne becomes important for us. The first thing that we need to remember is that John Donne was born on 1572 and he died on 1631. क्योंकि ये राइटर क्रोनोलॉजी में भी पूछा जाता है तो इसीलिए इनका बर्थ डेट आपको याद रखना जरूरी है. He was a leading English poet of the early 17th century, the same time period when the metaphysical poets group were formed. And he is best known as the founder of metaphysical poetry. But हमें ये भी मालूम है that he was not someone to coin the term metaphysical. Metaphysical was the term used by John Dryden for John Donne, and it was Samuel Johnson in his work Eminent Lives of Poets जिसमें 52 बायोग्राफीज है ऑथर्स के और उसमें से फर्स्ट बायोग्राफी है अब्राहम काउली का. एंड अब्राहम काउली इज ऑल्सो मेटाफिजिकल पोएट एंड इन द बायोग्राफी ऑफ अब्राहम काउले सैमुअल जॉनसन uses the term metaphysical poets. So John Donne didn't coin the term. ये डिटेल आपको याद रखने का जरूरत है यहाँ से. But he was the founder. He was a major poet of the metaphysical group. His works explores themes of love, death, religion, spirituality, and the human soul, blending intellect and emotion with the philosophical depth. Since he was a metaphysical poet, तो इनके वर्क्स में आपको कंसीट का यूज मिलेगा जिसमें ये कंपैरिजन करेंगे. मेटाफिजिकल कंसीट का यूज मिलता है बियॉन्ड समथिंग और ऐसा कंपैरिजन करेंगे जिन चीजों के बीच में कोई रिलेशन ही नहीं है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये अपने एक पोएम में वैलिडिक्शन फोबिडिंग मॉर्निंग में ये कंपेयर करते हैं लवर्स को कंपस से. सो इस तरह के कंपैरिजन मिलेंगे. लव का कंपस के साथ क्या कंपैरिजन है बट कंपस के टू एंड्स को ये लवर से कंपेयर करते हैं. दे आर जस्ट लाइक द लवर्स. नो मैटर हाउ फार दे गो, if there is love, that is the top point of the compass, they'll always unite. That is what he says, that is what he believes. वैसे ही इनके सारे पोएम्स में द फ्ली में एक मॉस्किटो के बारे में बात किया जा रहा है और वहां पे फिजिकल इंटीमेसी के बारे में बात किया जा रहा है. दैट वी आर नॉट एबल टू गेट फिजिकली intimated, but that flea is sucking my blood and that flea is sitting on you now and he's sucking your blood. And उस प्रोसेस से देयर इज इंटीमेशन है. तो ऐसे एब्सर्ड आपको कनेक्शंस देखने को मिलते हैं जिसको मेटाफिजिकल कंसीट कहा जाता है. इसीलिए इनके वर्क्स में आपको लव, डेथ, इन्होंने होली सॉनेट्स लिखे जिन पे ये स्पिरिचुअलिटी की बात करते हैं, ह्यूमन सोल की बात करते हैं. So these are the common themes that we will find in the works of John Donne. He began his career as a writer of erotic and witty love poetry, but later he became a deeply spiritual poet and Anglican preacher, writing some of the most profound holy sonnets and sermons of English literature. Later we see him writing holy sonnets, जहाँ पे इनके बिलीफ के बारे में हमें पता चलता है. तो ये पॉइंट इंपॉर्टेंट है. शुरू में ये इरोटिक विटी लव पोइट्रीज लिखते थे, फिर ये डीपली स्पिरिचुअल पोएट और एंग्लिकन प्रीचर बनते जिसके कारण इनके पोएम्स में हमें स्पिरिचुअलिटी देखने को मिलता है. If I talk about his education, then he got his degrees from Oxford and Cambridge, but he did not take his degree क्योंकि वहां पे ओथ लेना था और वो ओथ लेने से ये डिनाई कर देते हैं. दैट इज व्हाई ही वाज नॉट एबल टू टेक हिज डिग्री इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अ सर्टिफिकेट, बट ही हैज कंप्लीटेड हिज ग्रेजुएशन. He was born as a Catholic and later converted to Anglicanism. He secretly married Anne Moore, and this caused personal and professional turmoil in his life as well. And he became a priest in the Church of England in 1615. Now, these are some important events that you need to remember. And eventually, he becomes the dean of St. Paul's Cathedral. Now, let's talk about some major works इनके वर्क्स को हम लोग जॉनर्स में पुट करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल लव पोइट्रीज लाइक द फ्ली in which the sexual persuasion is shown using a flea as a metaphor there, a mosquito. The good morrow, it's about the soulful love and spiritual awakening. The sun rising, define time and nature for love. He says that he compares love there. A valediction forbidding morning. He talks about the spiritual bond in the physical separation through the figure of compass. The canonization. In this work, he elevates to sainthood. Love elevated to sainthood. This is how he talks about in his poetry. That is why he's famous for using the metaphysical conceits in his poetry. The poems mentioned in this PPT are important. You need to read these poems line by line क्योंकि इनके वर्क से quotation based questions भी आपको देखने को मिलते हैं. So you need to remember the publication date as well as the lines of the poem. Now, if I talk about the holy sonnets that he has written, Batter My Heart. It is about the struggle for his spiritual rebirth, that he has lost his faith in God and he is just praying the 3% God कि इनको वापस से वो अब उन्हीं के पास वो पावर है गॉड के पास कि वो उन पे फेथ ला सके वापस. Death be not proud. It's about defying death with faith in eternal life. Hymn to God in my sickness. This is a poem about acceptance of mortality. Good Friday, 1613, riding westward. It's about guilt and self-reflection on Christ's crucifixion. All these poems are the part of his holy sonnets. We have some of his prose works as well, like Devotions upon Emergent Occasions, which includes the famous Meditation. Apart from this, we have some other works, like there is a song, Go and Catch the Falling Star. Go and catch the falling star. You need to remember this as well. Then there is then another important poem is the anniversary. Then we have the next important poem is from his holy sonnets. The first sonnet that we have is Thou hast made me, and shall thy work decay. The second sonnet was As due by many titles I resign. Now, there are total 19 holy sonnets, but you don't need to study all the 19 holy sonnets. सारे 19 होली सॉनेट्स नहीं पढ़ने बट आपको पता होना चाहिए कि कौन से नंबर पे कौन सा सॉनेट है द नेम. तो वो आपको वहां से पता होना चाहिए. कुछ सॉनेट्स आपको जो पढ़ने हैं इनके होली सॉनेट्स वो है डेथ बी नॉट प्राउड, बैटर माई हार्ट, then we have yeah these two, then the sun rising जो ऊपर मेंशन है वो वाले पोएम्स आपको इनके पढ़ने हैं लाइक द फ्ली. ये पढ़ना है आपको ये सारे पोएम्स इनके. The key characteristics of Donne's poetry are the use of his metaphysical conceits, for which he is very famous, using extended metaphors like abstract ideas to physical objects. Example, compass in the valediction forbidding mourning. इंटेलेक्चुअल आर्ग्यूमेंट करते थे ये अपने वर्क्स में, इसीलिए मेटाफिजिकल पोइट्स जिस एज में ये फेमस थे, तो उस एज में जिस पर्टिकुलर सेंचुरी में अर्ली 17th सेंचुरी में जब ये लिखना शुरू करते इस तरह का पोइट्री, इट वाज very new to their taste and a lot of people criticized them. At that time no one considered them a famous poet, but later In the 20th century, poets like T.S. Eliot praised them in their works. They said that the poems of John Donne are the true poems that we need for our society. Poems ऐसे ही होने चाहिए. So at the moment when they were writing at the time, they were not very famous, but later they got famous. तो इनके वर्क्स में आपको इंटेलेक्चुअल आर्ग्यूमेंट भी देखने को मिलेगा जॉन डन के वर्क्स में. हिज पोएम रिजेंबल्स लॉजिकल एंड परसुएसिव डिबेट्स. ऐसा नहीं है कि मेटाफिजिकल कंसीट का यूज कर रहे हैं तो एब्सर्ड बातें कर रहे हैं, एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडियाज का यूज कर रहे हैं, बट एक लॉजिक के साथ पैशन और रीजन देखने को मिलेगा इनके वर्क्स में. You will see intense emotion blending with philosophical thought in his works. Like love is a feeling, and comparing it with compass is a philosophical thought that any person can have. Religious conflict, like spiritual doubt, sin, redemption, and divine love. Paradox and irony, like death, thou shalt die. ये एक paradox से जो यूज किया जा रहा है यहाँ पे. So ये सारे themes बनते हैं. Now, those were the characteristics. Let us look at the themes in John Donne's poetry: love, death and mortality, religion and salvation, knowledge and self awareness, and unity of opposites. Like, ये दो ऐसी चीजों को कंपेयर करेंगे जिनके बीच में सिमिलैरिटी होते हुए भी वो इंडिफरेंट है, लाइक लव एंड रिलीजन, बॉडी वर्सेस सोल, लाइफ वर्सेस डेथ. बाइनरी अपोजिशन वाले पेयर्स को ये लेते हैं. Some of his famous lines are like, Death, be not proud. Thou some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. In this line, Donne mocks death's power, affirming Christians' belief in the eternal life. Next is from the Benediction forbidding mourning. If they be two, he's talking about the lovers. If they be two, they are two so, as stiff twin compasses are two. He's comparing the lovers with the compass here. A conceit is used. What is the importance of Donne poetry in literature? He was a pioneer of metaphysical poetry. He influenced poets like George Herbert, Andrew Marvell, and modernist poets like T.S. Eliot. He combined emotional depth with intellectual rigor. इन्होंने एक फीलिंग को एक फिलोसफी के साथ जोड़ा. He balanced the secular and sacred concerns in poetry, and his religious works helped shape spiritual discourse in the English literature. So John Donne is a brilliant paradox of fashion. He uses a lot of paradox in his works. And pity. His works are deeply personal, philosophical, rich, and stylistically daring because he's talking about something that is not very common at that time to talk about. Whether celebrating earthly love or wrestling with God, he remains one of the most powerful and thought provoking voices in the English poetry. That is why Donne is one of the important poet in the early 17th century. We need to cover. I hope that this session was insightful to you all. Share the video as much as you can. Share it to the people जिनके लिए ये useful है video. Subscribe to my channel. And to get the PDF, you can join my Telegram link. And the link to my Telegram channel is provided in my description. Link description box में नीचे दिया हुआ है. आप वहां पे क्लिक करके Telegram channel join कर सकते हो जहां पे आपको ये as it is PDF पूरा मिलेगा. Now with the end, I would like to end the session. Have a lovely day, learners.